Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome to the next lesson in our D programming language series. In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and apply the things that we've been learning in this series to build a little project that I call the guessing game. Now, this is one of my favorite projects that I do when I'm first learning a programming language, so to give us a chance to go ahead and take some of the constructs that we've learned from our D programming language playlist, if you've been starting start to finish, or if you're just joining us now to go ahead and test your knowledge or just see how D is used in a little bit of a program that does more than just showcases features. So with that said, let's go ahead and do a quick recap of what we've learned, which of course is showing up on the D programming playlist. So go ahead and check this out. Make sure you subscribe so you'll see these new videos otherwise. But with that said, let's go ahead and start working on this guessing game here. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just ask you a question. I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 10. And then go ahead and think about what that number is, and I'm going to try to pick. I'm going to pick 5. Well, was it higher or lower than that number, or was it actually 5? Did I get it right? Well, what you're going to actually do in your program is give me some feedback. And that's the idea of the guessing game, so that you get a number of guesses to pick the number. And of course, doing a little thing called a binary search or picking in the middle will sort of optimally, in the worst case, tell you how many guesses that you need to use to guess somebody's number. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and open my terminal and show you the specifications for our guessing game. And let's go ahead and add some features to make this a game. We're going to generate a username, or ask the user, generate a random number. So we'll look at random numbers in D, allow the user to guess the number, and then allow the user to play multiple times if we'd like, and maybe keep track of their best guess. All right, so let's go ahead and just start kind of working this out with what we're going to need to do. Now, one of the important things that we're going to actually need to do is the ability to just generate a random number. So let's go ahead and try to figure out how do we actually do this in the D programming language. That's something new that we haven't talked about. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just bring in a window here. I'm going to search for Dlang random number. And it's going to bring us to the random page here. Now, the thing to know here with D is it's got quite a rich ecosystem as far as the ability to generate random numbers. And what I'm going to go ahead and point us towards here is these random engines generators. So we can generate things with random distributions, or maybe we want to do things with something more predictable. But let's go ahead and just click on RND gen, and let's go ahead and just take a look at this example and see if we can incorporate it into our actual D program here. So a nice thing about D is I can go ahead and edit and run these examples. And let's just go ahead and open it in the IDE here. And I'll go ahead and run this example. Now I've actually got an instance open, so you can go ahead and see how this usage is. But inside of our main, we need to bring in the random number generator here. I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff here. And let's go ahead and see what's going on here. 2 instances where I want to generate uniformly, meaning some good distribution of a random number between 0 and 1024. And let's go ahead and run this a few times. And you can see that I'm getting different random numbers every time that I call this, okay? Now what's going on here with this line here? I'm using auto, which we know gives us the type here, and I'm sending it to RND gen. So again, if we go ahead back to our random number generator here, you're gonna see that this is one of the default random engines here. So RND gen for random number generator is a global random number generator used by various functions whenever no generator is specified. So it's sort of the default here. So it's a singleton instance, meaning that there's just one sort of tool in the D programming language that's generating random numbers for us, okay? So that's the idea. That's what we're setting up here when we're assigning RND to RND gen here. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab what we have here just as an example, and you can copy and paste this or whatever, but that's what we want to actually use in our code here. Let me go ahead and paste this in to our code. And what we're going to need to do here is, since I'm using random numbers here, I'm going to need to import standard random here. And let's go ahead and give this a try. Our DMD and our main here. And we're getting a random number here. Now, for our guessing game, we're going to want to sort of constrain things, meaning that our guess is going to be between 0 and let's make it 100 just to make it somewhat interesting. And we're probably going to want to store this value somewhere. So the random number equals this. And then let's go ahead and write out what the random number is. Okay. And let's go ahead and try our program again. We get a value 0, 17, 8, And again, just keep running this. You should get, some interesting distribution of random numbers. Okay, so we're halfway through already our project at this point, in the sense that we've got the basic functionality that we need. Now, in order to make this a game, we're going to need to put this in some sort of loop here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put in a loop here. And let me go ahead and I can make this smaller here. So we have our random numbers generating here. I'm going to go ahead and just put in a loop here, basically until our random number is correct from the user's guess. So let's go ahead and structure this loop here. I'm going to say something like, while the random number does not equal the user's guess, then we want to keep playing this game where we're going to read in the user input. Now, we're going to have to store what the user input actually is. This is going to be some unsigned integer here. And if we want, we can be specific in D by specifying how many bytes that we want to store. So I could actually use something like a byte, because this range is going to be 0 to 100. I'm just going to use an integer right now, but at least making it important that it's unsigned, because these are all going to be values between 0 and some positive value here. So this is going to be the user guess. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just initialize this to some value here. Like I can go ahead and just say, 100,000, because I don't want the random number to be within this range of 0 to 100, because it might happen to be that, the random number that's generated happens to be the one that we have actually guessed here. But again, remember, Dlang has properties associated with values here. So I could actually take some uint here and just say max to get the maximum property here. Okay, so let's go ahead and now take in a guess. Now I am going to cheat a little bit here, and for now leave this in so we can see the answer, because I'm not ready to add the actual logic of the game yet. So again, we're writing the program so we can cheat here just a little bit here so we can see how the program is running here. Okay, now let me go ahead and give myself just a little bit of space and go ahead and move down just a little bit. And let's go ahead and ask the user for their guess here. User guess equals read line here. And let's go ahead and give this a try here for what's going to happen. Now, again, if I run this, it's going to say, hey, we cannot implicitly convert this expression, because read line is how we're actually going to get input in the deprogramming language, from a string to an int. So we do have to actually cast this value. So let's go ahead and try to get a little bit of help again here. Let's go to Dlang here, Dlang cast value. And let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Looking at some of the expressions here, and just again navigating the help page here. And it looks like we have the ability to cast to some type what we're actually going to use here. So again, here's the error that we have, cannot implicitly cast this. So let's go ahead and try with what was given here at D. Let's go ahead and just try this cast. And again, we can kind of see the example here that we want to use here. So what I want to do here is cast to a uint, and then this is the particular value that I have here that I'm reading in here. So again, it seems to not be happy with this particular cast that we're using. And this is going to be a little bit unfamiliar for C programmers, where maybe you can try to use this cast here. But if we read a little bit closer to what cast is doing, we're really thinking about something more hierarchical, in the sense that, strings are different things, and we've learned that strings are an array of characters than integer. So we really need something else here. So let's go ahead back here to our help here, and let's go ahead and see if the first result has something useful here. Well, just casting here. So I'm going to go ahead down here a little bit here, and there's actually something called conversion here. The conversion library that's part of the standard here. So we can actually cast to a particular type here. So let's go ahead and try this. And we're going to need to import that standard conversion library here. And let's go ahead and just try to follow the format that we have here. So we're going to use to. We want this to be a int, and then whatever we are reading in, which is going to return a string. Let's see if D is happy with that. And in fact, it's happy. Okay, so I know the number is 82. I'm going to guess 81. And looks like I'm getting a little bit of a error here as well. So let's go ahead and try to figure out what's going on. Well, let's see here. What happened with the actual cast here? And again, these error messages might appear a little bit scary, but we're just sort of slowly building this program up, trying to get the framework as we maybe learn a few things as we solve a real problem here. Now it's saying, okay, we did this conversion here, and we're using our standard library, but there was an unexpected /n here when converting from type string to uint. So it looked like that this type was actually working for us. But what happens when I type it in here? I mean, we might have to actually try this a few times here. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter. And then we're going to go ahead and make our guess. Again, just pick some random number. And I type in 79 plus enter. Okay, so that's actually putting an end line on the actual character or the string that I'm reading in here. So it doesn't know how to convert this value 79 is what it's actually reading /n. Okay, which is a little bit kind of funny that it's actually doing that. So how are we going to actually handle this case here? Well, let's again go to our sort of standard library here. And let's see if there's anything that we could actually use. So what would I actually search for here? Maybe there is something with readln that I can actually search for. And let's actually see in the library, can I actually ignore the end character? Well, it looks like, let's see what we have here. The line terminator by default is /n. Okay, so that's kind of telling us when are we done reading in some characters. So that's sort of going to be our default here. But maybe there's a way to sort of actually trim this string before we, actually do the conversion. So let's go ahead and just look through our standard library here. And again, D has a very capable standard library here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is just search for string. So that's what we're working with. And I wonder if there's some way to remove the white space here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of look through our functions here, if we're searching for something here. Pruning usually means that we're getting rid of something. So let's go ahead and see. There are some functions here like detabber that sort of look interesting, or maybe strip. So let's go ahead and see strip. So strips both the leading and trailing white space. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if the /n character would be a white space. And from the examples, that looks like that would actually be the case here. And again, let's just go ahead and run these examples as we're learning here. Now it says all tests passed, but let's actually see what's going on here. I'm going to just pick one of these out. And sorry, I'll make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see. Right, here's the hello world string. And if it's got end line, I can strip away any white space. So let's try this with the strip function in our program here. Okay, so I'm going to actually read in the input and then strip away any of the functionality, meaning any of the white space, because we don't need that. And let's go ahead and try this again. Now it's saying undefined identifier strip. Did you mean the alias for string here? What didn't I include? Well, again, any time that I'm using these new libraries, let's go ahead and see what we need to include here. Well, I'm in the string library here. Okay, so let's go ahead and include this into our project. Import standard string. And I'll go ahead and run it. And let's try again, 56, enter, and now it's working. Okay, and now I can actually try some more numbers, and eventually 27 will terminate. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just print out a message here saying you won. Okay, now this could be a very simple guessing game. Okay, so again, it's telling us the answer, 32 here. And let's go ahead and just put in 32, enter, you won. And this is the framework that we need here. Now let's go ahead and use the rest of the things that we've learned about the D programming language to allow us to structure this program here. Okay, now this is a pretty tiny program here as far as the actual things that we need to do. So let's go ahead and just kind of structure things as we need here. So this is going to be generate a random number, and just adding in some comments here in our program. And I'm going to go ahead and append or concatenate these strings together here and say the answer is, and again, I'm still sort of cheating here, initiate our user guess, and just kind of leave it as is here. Oops. Now, again, we're getting a message here because, well, if we're concatenating this random number with answer, well, we need to, again, cast this here. It doesn't seem to be happy here with the actual number. So I need to say to string and then the random number. And let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so now it's compiling again. 79, U1. Okay, so we've got some comments in here for our guessing game. Now let's go ahead and add some of the logic here. Again, if you want to generate a username and maybe keep track of the guesses, and then we could also put a loop in here if we want to play again here. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep track of the guesses. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0. And every time that we iterate through this, guesses plus plus, and let's go ahead and write out you guessed, or maybe the guess number. And I'll go ahead and just put a colon here, and then we'll go ahead and do to string for our guesses that the user has made. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see everything on the screen. And now let's actually give the hint to the user. If our number is lower, then we want to tell them that our guess was too high, etc. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is say, so assist the user, Okay, so 3 conditions here. And we could do this with case statements that we've learned this series, or just if-else conditions. So let's just go ahead and say if the random number equals our user guess, then we're just going to break out of this loop here. Okay, so we'll actually be done and it'll go to our end screen saying that you won here. Okay, otherwise we'll say else if our random number is greater than the user guess, then let's give them a hint and we'll just write a line here. Please guess higher. Okay. And the final condition, which I could do else if or just else. There's only one condition here. So I'm going to use else here. Right line, please guess lower. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this much. And again, as you write programs, you want to incrementally build them up here. Oops, let's go ahead and see where I made any mistakes. Guessing at line, let's use the compiler, always starting from the top, 29. We are missing 1 parentheses. So let's go ahead and pop that in at the end here and go ahead and try again. And looks like we're missing at line 29, one more thing, which says it found right line, but we're actually missing a semicolon here. Okay, so this is how we're just iteratively building. But again, you can see with D how quickly this is, which is nice. So let's go ahead and test to see if our hint works. So if I guess 8, it's going to say guess number 1, please guess lower. If I say 6, it's going to say guess number 2, please guess higher. That means I must do number 7. Okay, so guess number 3, I won the game. Okay, now let's go ahead and try to ask the user if they want to play again. So what we can go ahead and do is just put this in another loop here. That's going to be a do while loop. Okay, so we learned a little bit about this in one of the previous lessons. So we're going to say do this loop. Okay, and this is going to be the logic of our game. And again, indentation is important in any programming language that you're learning here. So let's go ahead and put this in our loop here. While, and then we're going to ask the user if they want to play after they won. So let's go ahead and ask them, right line, do you want to play again? And then we'll give them the choice of capital Y or N, lowercase n. And we'll go ahead and record that guess here. And let's go ahead, or excuse me, this user input. And I'll just go ahead and call this user input. And it's going to be equal to whatever their input is. And again, we've got to be a little bit careful with this, as you'll go ahead and see in a moment here, because we need to check for that end line character, because you know as soon as you hit enter that's going to check. So we're going to say, well, user input is not equal to n with the /n character here. So this is actually going to be a string that we are going to compare against. Let's go ahead and see if we got everything right. Oops, looks like I got one terminating semicolon for our do while loop. So we need to terminate that statement there. And because our input here is out of the scope for user input, well, we're going to have to read this value elsewhere. So let's go ahead and see where we can move this scope to. Okay, and we know that this is a string here, so we're being pretty intentional about this. So let me go ahead and just pop this up here, and let's go ahead and just try this. Let's go ahead and say that the user input equals capital Y for now, because we do want to play, and then we can read in the input later. Let's go ahead and see if this is going to cause any problems, and let's go ahead and see. Okay, so the answer is 54. And I'm going to guess 50. I need to guess higher. 56. Guess lower. 55. Lower. 54. And you won. Do I want to play again? Well, let's just go ahead and put in yes. And then it's going to say you won. Okay. Okay. Well, we got to fix our logic again and generate a new random number. So do I want to play again? No. Well, at least that's working. So we know we can terminate things. So again, before this loop here, which is sort of our main game loop, let's go ahead and reorganize our program just a little bit here. So what are the things that we need to do every time? Well, we need to initiate our user guess. So that needs to go in the while loop here. And then we also need to set up our random number each time. And again, I can go ahead and put this in our do while loop here. Okay. And if I want, for now, I'll leave in the answer just for a little bit longer here in our program here. And then we'll go ahead and try this again here. Okay. So the answer is 28. I'm going to guess 27. Please guess higher. 28. It's correct. Do I want to play again? Yes. Answer is 64. Let's guess 65. That was my first guess. 66. I'm breaking the rules. I'm not guessing lower. 61. Let's see. What was our actual answer here? 65. Please guess lower. 64. You won. Do I want to play again? No. Okay. So that's the game here. It works just fine. The last bit that we can add here is to ask the user their name. Let's go ahead and just do that. Just to add a little bit more interactivity. Username equals readln, and ask them, readln, what is your name? And let's go ahead and add this in here. You won. And we're going to concatenate these strings for the username. And then we can go ahead and rerun this. So what is your name? Mike. The answer is 69. I'll guess 70. Guess lower. 68. Random value. You won. Do I want to play again? Yes. 58 is the answer. Let's guess 60. Still working. 58, etc. Do I want to play again? No. Okay. So the final thing that I need to do here is not print out the number. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. And let's go ahead and run this just one more time to show you what's going on here. And what is my name? Mike. Let's go ahead and guess 50. I need to guess higher. 75. Let's do something in between. 67. A little bit higher. 73. Guess higher. I bet it's 74 if our algorithm's working correctly. And you won. Okay. So do I want to play again? We'll just go ahead and say no and end it there. All right, folks. So hopefully that was a fun lesson. You got to see, how to just build a little bit of a bigger program. Now, for some of those of you who have been programming before, you might say, well, Mike, could we break this into different functions or even a struct that sort of holds the actual game loop if you've done some programming? And that's absolutely something that you could do if you know a little bit about functions. But we've got to get to that in the series. But what I have found, and what I hope is useful for those of you just learning the deprogramming language, is to actually build something. Building little projects that, as you learn a programming language, is a great way to put together all the information. So again, just to summarize, because I think it's worth taking a look at here. Again, we were able to learn about random, and again, it's just a really tiny problem that we had to figure out how to use random numbers. Conversions we worked with a little bit, which we haven't had an explicit lesson on, but will at some point. But I wanted to give you a preview here, reading in input, and then we got to practice things like loops, using our properties from the different variables. Again, D is very nice because it initializes values with these properties and defaults. One of the things that I really like about the D programming language. And we even found some helpful things in the standard library and just how to use the help pages, like this strip function to get rid of white space on characters. Okay, so this is something that's fun to do. You can do it with any language that you're learning, and it's just a really good exercise in my opinion. So folks, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Hope you're enjoying the series. Make sure you subscribe so you don't see more stuff, because we got a lot of cool stuff in the D programming language yet to cover. All right, with that said, folks, make sure that you check out the description for courses, other information, the link to the playlist for the other D lessons and other things on my channel. And I thank you for your time. And let me know how many guesses it took you to guess your number, or if you do something cool in the comment sections below to build on this project. All right, folks, with that said, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.